1983 RX-7 I bought a little bit over a year ago, 20 hours away in Tennessee. I bought this car in hopes to just put a turbo kit on it and change the transmission from a turbo 350 to a glide and rewiring it and going racing. It is extremely light, that's why we bought it, but it had some things that weren't right about it. After some thinking, I think I'm just gonna redo all of this. I'm not a huge fan of how they fitted here and here. It's almost like the sizing of the bar is different. Like I'm not really sure what's going on with it. Also, I would like to get rid of this control arm setup because I do believe that that's going to cause problems with a rack and pinion setup. Get rid of the K-member, control arms, top of it. So the most important part about this is we do not want to get into our square tube of the chassis. We do not want to get into the top of it, take any material off of it, because that is staying there as our chassis for the whole car. So we're planning on cutting it a little high, that way we can clean it up with a Tiger disc later. And what that'll do is really be able to control how deep we go. So I debated heavily on what tool I wanted to use. I ended up on the Sawzall. Now, a bandsaw would have been great, but couldn't really fit it in there the greatest. So one thing you want to be extremely careful on whenever you're doing something like this is tension. If you cut something, it might have tension on it from the weld and pop at you. So keeping that in mind, we're going to steer clear of being anywhere close to this while we cut it. So luckily they did a pretty good job not having any tension. It had a little bit of a pop to it, but it was fine. Now it's time to pull this out. It was fighting me a little bit getting it out of there. An extra set of hands would have been great for this. And boom, just like that. Got these boxes cut off in the front. Next will be the K-member, because we're not going to have any of this anymore. Got quite a bit accomplished tonight. Got that welded on there. That was way harder than what it should have been, because we are not on the lift, because Mustang is torn apart still. Got the front pieces cut off. I'll get these cleaned up, ready to weld new pieces on. It looks like I'm going to have to either cut over a hole or cut a whole new hole, plate that. Not sure yet on that. So, coming along good though. Alright, so we got all of those brackets cut off. Now, these brackets right here are for the front end. And these right here are the original motor mounts. Now I still need to take off the master cylinder and the line lock, because we are going to be mounting that in here. So I actually saw this from Turbo John. It's what he runs on his. It is a remote mount or inside mount brake pedal. That'll pull that off right there, and I'll have to build something to go to the brake pedal. And it is already set up for a throttle rod instead of a throttle cable. Now, the benefit of that, you can see right here, this, you can pull back on it if the throttle ever hangs. Well, you can't see. So, we'll probably... Battery died. Original motor mounts for the LS. The reason they are still there is because that centers our motor. So we're going to use those with the original motor mounts that were on it to center the motor. That way we don't have to worry about aligning it with the rear end, because it should have already been aligned with the rear end. And it ran like this. By now in the video, you're probably asking yourself, what are we doing with this car? And I originally bought it and was going to build a small tire car out of it because my street car is way too heavy and it's a lot of work to redo something. So I bought this car in the hopes of putting a turbo kit on it, rewiring it, putting a power glide in it, and racing back of the track small tire. It's a square tube chassis, 84 RX-7. It's 4-linked, huge tubs. It could fit a big tire. So that was the original plan. Then we kept blowing everything up on the Mustang, and not to say blowing it up, but we kept hurting the motor, and now we think we have that figured out. So now it's time to start working on this. And the more I looked at the car, some of the things I was not happy with how it was done. For example, how the struts were. I couldn't really find a good way other than having it come off of the bracket, a bracket come off of the tubular chromoly that goes right here, which was mild steel before, but it'll be chromoly now. I basically having a bracket that came off of it. Then my buddy Brandy Hubbard had an incident where he broke those off, not doing anything crazy, and that made me change my mind. Decided to cut all this stuff off and do it right. Do it right one time. We were going to have my fab guy do most of this, which is DTR Performance. Still does all my fab work. But his shop has been so busy. If you guys don't know, my Mustang was the first customer car he really did. Like a full turbo kit. Somebody was actually going to put it through the ringer. Now he built his own stuff, and he built Darius's stuff. My car was really the first that he ever did, and I was really the first one to give him a big chance. And he killed it. He does awesome work. And he's dealing with growing pains right now. So this wasn't something that he had time to tackle. This is a big job, and he taught me how to weld not too long ago. I think I want to try to tackle it myself. Chassis really interests me, and suspension geometry really interests me, and I really think I can do it with the help of my buddy AJ, of course. And he's all in on it. He said, let's do it. So I have to order some parts for it. I gotta order the strut cups. I have the turbos. I have our turbo or turbos. I have the engine for it. Now, for the reason we are staying LS, everyone knows me for Coyote, but the reason we're staying LS is I want to prove that you can still be competitive in small tire on a budget. Now, obviously that's not going to be front side, no prep. It's going to be slower surfaces, but everyone thinks that you can't win on a budget. So we're going to build this as budget as they come. I'm going to go through what every single thing costs that I add on to this car. We're going to talk about it at the end of the video after I install it, and basically show you how to do this at home. Now, the only thing we're not going to be budget on is the ECU. I do a lot of cool stuff very interesting and very beneficial things with a Dominator. Now, I debated on going HP to save some money, but I decided that I want the inputs and outputs, and what I paid for a used Dominator was very similar to what a brand new HP would have cost. Y'all comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know what turbos you think we're going with, or turbo. And if you have any suggestions, put them down in the comments.